have to readjust my posture when she's here. Sit up straight, Jace. It is time. It's time for everyone to be on their best behavior, especially me. Because today we're talking about adult manners. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for one of our favorite guests in our show, etiquette expert from the fabulous St. Paul Hotel, Julie Frantz, everybody. Welcome back, Julie.
Thank you so much for having me.
I will start with a compliment. You look lovely. You look springy and lovely.
Being the sun isn't out, I decided to wear it.
Yeah.
And I also brought you this little plant for two reasons. First of all, to remind you, it is spring, even though there were snowflakes in Forest
I know, in
Lake.
Duluth. It was snowing.
Yeah.
Our friends in Duluth.
Yeah. So it is spring, sun is going to come, and also I bring this because it might sound a little sappy, but there is a relationship between flowers and how we care for them and relationships, and I'm all about relationships. So here's the deal. If you neglect this plant, you don't water it, you don't give it sunshine, you don't take care of it, it's going to die, death by neglect. And that's what happens to relationships, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, death by neglect. People ignore them, they don't take care of them, and then they wonder, why did this relationship die? So
Julie, what I'm reading from this is, if I don't take care of, this is a test for me, right?
Yes,
I got to take care of this plant.
Yes,
okay, I will. I'll sit it right over there.
That's right. Every time you look at it, you think about.
I'll think of you.
Take care of those relationships.
We're gonna start with adults today.
Yes.
Husbands, wives, and significant others will call this line of questioning. Let's start with this question. How to get your other half to clean up after themselves.
The rule of etiquette is if you open a drawer, close a drawer. You make a mess making a sandwich, you clean up your mess. You use the restroom, you be proactive. Open a window, turn on the fan, double flush, whatever. You should leave every room better than how you entered it.
Yes.
Right. So with that being said, we model good behavior. I can't expect my husband to be a little neatkin if I'm just leaving a mess all over. I model good behavior. If he does leave it out, and this just happened the other day, I was going to run the dishwasher, and instead of going ballistic, why don't you ever clean up and just, ranting, I just said, honey, do you mind putting your breakfast dishes in the dishwasher? I'm going to start the dishwasher. Oh, I totally forgot. So sometimes how we approach it.
Yep.
And then also show appreciation. Like I'll let my husband know, thanks a lot for cleaning up the kitchen. I appreciate it. I'm pressed for time. Relationships, again, are not a competition. It's a cooperation of two people trying to run a household, trying to manage things together.
Yeah, like a little company. Like a little company.
It is. It's a little company.
Okay, on that note, best way, in your opinion, to fairly divide workload?
Like never before, we have both people working. And again, it takes a spirit of cooperation. So here's, again, what works for us, and I think is the equitable way, is that you make a list of all the responsibilities, all the things that has to be done. And I'll say to my husband sometimes, what would you like to do? Give him the first option. You divide it up fairly, and then again, you go after it, and then you show appreciation. Let me say, the greatest need that every one of us have is to feel loved, valued, and appreciated. And it costs absolutely nothing.
To do those three things,
To do those things.
Getting your partner to listen, to hear you. Yes, the audience laughs on that one. Yes.
We are highly plugged in, aren't we? And so we have to just unplug. So we need to take out the earbuds. We need to put our phone in another room. We need to turn off the TV, unless, of course, you're watching Jason.
Thank you. Yes.
That's the show that should stay on. I even turned down the radio, and we started a routine. You know me and tea.
Yeah.
I'd make a pot of tea, and I'd tell my sons, clean up the kitchen after dinner. Gary and I would go into the sunroom and just, even a half an hour, look at each other, talk, be unplugged. And sometimes you have to start with just small increments of time like that to really listen and just give each other undivided attention.
I have to own this. I need to do better. Because of the job, I'm always looking on the internet for the next day show. I have a hard time with this sometimes, and I know there's hurt feelings on the other side with people. Yeah.
Right.
Let's move to parents and children.
Yeah.
Should folks say something to parents who let their kids run wild at restaurants?
Yeah.
I am loving these women in the audience. Yeah. They are literally like my sisters. Yeah.
If your children need to run wild, take them to McDonald's. Don't take them to a nice place. But it is a little dicey for you to correct other people's children unless there is imminent danger. Now, at the St. Paul Hotel, I have 5 servers with hot pots of tea.
Yeah.
I cannot afford little children running around. So if the parents are just like letting them run, not an appropriate environment, I will say, sweetheart, let's come over here. I'll get you some crayons and something to color. And I'll even say, I have these servers with hot pots of tea, and I certainly don't want you to get hurt.
Yeah.
So turn it over to a server, just mention, ask to be relocated, bring it to their attention, and they'll have to take care of it. Ultimately, who's responsible? Parents.
Parents. Yeah.
Parents.
Yep. Julie's not going anywhere. More with Julie. We're talking etiquette for adults when we come back. Back after this. It is dicey now. Welcome back, everybody. More with Julie Frantz, etiquette expert at the wonderful St. Paul Hotel. If you haven't stayed in the St. Paul Hotel, make a reservation. Have a staycation. Julie and I were talking during the break, and I think let's continue it for the break.
Yes.
I was telling Julie that, I'm an only child, and yes, make your only child jokes, everyone at home. But the one thing my mother never skimped on was the importance of manners. My mom, if I wanted to anger my mom, it would be with that. And she always told me, this was her rule. She always looked at me and she goes, I do not want adults dreading your presence.
Absolutely.
And that stuck with me. And,
Right.
and I was I remember
Right.
that.
Well, remember this, parents. You can teach your child 5 languages to speak. They can be the best little ballerina, but if they are rude and obnoxious, nobody wants to be around them. Everyone wants to be around a polite child. And
Yeah.
so that's the best thing parents can teach. Teach
Yeah.
them to be kind, to be polite, considerate.
Thank you, Mom. I love you. We're sticking on the topic of kids. Should children order at a restaurant, or should that be always left to the parent?
This is age appropriate. If you can train your child at 6 or 7 to look at the waitstaff, call them by name if they have told you their name, and be very quick to give their order, then that's wonderful. But to let a 3-year-old take up 10 minutes of a very busy server's time is very rude. Again, the world should not revolve around this little 3-year-old, okay?
Yeah.
So unless they're old enough to do those things, then the parent should order for the child. And wait till they're old enough, and then teach them, please. That's
Yeah.
a good thing to learn.
I'm so
Yeah,
glad
right.
you said that. Here's something for the adults. When you're with people maybe at a dinner party that only want to talk about their kids and you do not, how do you politely change the subject?
Well, of course, we're all guilty of that because
Yes.
we think our children
We're
proud, they're just so adorable. But first of all, keep in mind that if you're with a group of people and they do not have children or grandchildren, you are right away isolating them.
Yeah.
And conversation should be inclusive. And there's
And
so
you're kind of
many-
isolating yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And there's so many topics to talk about that why would you just focus on something isolating? So again, bring it up and just say, tell me quickly, how's the kids and grandkids? Let them say a little bit and then be ready for a right turn and talk about, I understand you guys are taking a vacation. Tell
Yeah.
me about where you're going. And be prepared. You should always have at least 5 topics of conversation wherever you go that you can introduce. So give them a little bit of time, but then, yes, take a turn and bring up another topic.
We're going to move to the workplace. This is important. I hear this all the time when I talk about kid bullies. I get countless emails, people reminding me that there are adult bullies in the world. How to deal with bullies at work.
First of all, rude behavior costs businesses billions of dollars. More people leave their job not because they don't like their job, but because of conflict, bullies, situations with people at work. Bullying is a huge problem. It is defined in many areas, but basically, same as we talked about this with children, you stand up to them. If you stand up to a bully and say, don't do that, I don't appreciate it, that was very unkind, you have to call them on their behavior. So you stand up to them. Then number 2, try to ignore them if you can stay away from that person as much as possible. Thirdly, if it continues, you need to report them. You report them to your supervisor. You report them to HR. But it should not be allowed to go on because it will be like a cancer within a business. Now, with that being said, we were talking about, too, the importance of building resilience in children. We won't be there to always hover, helicopter over our children. And so that's why my mom was so wise as a young girl, and I got picked on because I was very tiny. And she said, Julie, you've got to throw those shoulders back. And even though you're standing 5 feet tall, you look like you're 6 feet tall. And you get your little finger up and you say, stop doing that. I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. And you have to do that to bullies even as an adult.
Yeah, life. Life has sharp edges, and
Yes,
kids
it
need
does.
to learn how to deal with the sharp edges.
Absolutely.
We have time for one more. Rude behavior at work. Should you say something?
Speak the truth in love. Now, there is intentional rude behavior where I think there's just mean-spirited
Yeah.
people. Again, sometimes we have to look beyond that. Hurting people hurt other people. But then there is unintentional rudeness. Sometimes we didn't sleep good. We had a fight. And we can be rude without being purposeful. But I do believe that we need to call people on that, especially within the home. I remember one time my son kind of called me on it, and he said, I think you hurt Dad's feelings. And I turned around and I said, honey, did I hurt your feelings? And he said, you really did. Well, my attitude shouldn't be, oh, for Pete's sake, stop being a big baby and just buck up. Instead, it was, I apologize. I'm sorry. I said
Own it.
something. And
Yeah.
own it. Absolutely
Yeah.
own it.
I say, to wrap up, I always say, you teach people how to treat you.
Yes, you do.
You teach people how to treat you. What is that book, real quick? You wanted to mention this before we go.
Well, no, actually, it's just my wonderful Emily Post.
That's your Emily. That's you know
My
how, like,
Bible.
you know how like DVD players come with a manual.
Yeah.
This is her manual.
This is my manual,
Julie's etiquette expert Julie Frantz, everybody. She's holding an adult business etiquette dinner on Thursday, May 16th at the hotel, at the fabulous St. Paul Hotel. To learn more, go to stpaulhotel.com.